Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. First, TikTok, now DeepSeek, is a ban coming for the Chinese startup that seems to have built a better mousetrap when it comes to AI. Republican Congressman Darin LaHood.
It's long overdue that we really question what they're doing and we protect American citizens.
And Democrat Josh Gottheimer on a new move to get DeepSeek off federal devices.
The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has one intention. They're our number one adversary, and their intention is to spew disinformation and to ensure that our democracy's best days are behind us, not ahead of us. Obviously, we believe we've got to do everything we can to protect our country.
And the fork in the road or a knife in the back. We speak to the head of the largest union of government workers as an Elon Musk-driven deferred resignation deadline looms. Everett, Kelley.
The individual that's making these suggestions have never worked in the government, don't know anything about what federal workers do, and I suggest, once again, that they sit down and talk to the federal workers in their union and work through these issues.
Plus, it's Jobs Day in America, and the Winklevoss twins weighing an IPO.
At least they're not tall, handsome, and athletic.
Oh, wait. It's Friday, February 7th, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin on this Friday morning. Right now, it looks like the USA.
And welcome to another Jobs Friday. In January, the U.S. economy added 143,000 jobs. It was a weaker report than we expected. The unemployment rate, though, ticked lower a bit to 4%. That is the lowest since May last year. Wages jumped up for the first month of 2025, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics revised some numbers from 2024's jobs reports. Now, it turns out wage growth was slower than we thought last year. Now, overall, not a bad report. University of Michigan professor of economics Betsy Stevenson spoke to us this morning.
We look at this month, what we see is a labor market that's basically operating at full employment.
And Neil Kashkari, president of the Minneapolis Federal Reserve, weighed in too.
This is still a good labor market. It's not as hot as it was a year or two ago. And I validate this data by talking to businesses all around the region and around the country. And overall, the feedback that I'm getting is the economy is strong, businesses are optimistic.
Now for the rest of today's headlines to round out the week, let's get back to Andrew.
A federal judge pausing a whole bunch of things they're pausing right now because those buyout offers for federal workers, that is paused now officially less than 11 hours before the deadline to accept the deal. The judge saying his injunction pausing the plan would continue until at least Monday, when he will consider arguments by employee unions challenging the legality of the buyout and by a lawyer from the Trump administration defending the plan. Now, as of yesterday, more than 60,000 people had accepted the offer. A spokesperson for the Office of Personnel Management telling NBC News that they interpret the order as allowing federal agencies to continue processing resignations. Now, that means employees who have already accepted what is known as a deferred resignation package can begin their paid leave. But again, there's about 1 million questions about what happens if you accept or if you don't accept and then they fire you later. I mean, there's a lot.
And there's even questions as to whether they can pay you out over that
Right.
time, but whether Congress has to be the one that authorizes these things, and it is going to get caught up in the court system.
I saw Mark Warner, senator, saying that we don't know where the money's coming from to do the pass. It's tough. I mean, it's not a huge number. I mean, a percentage of federal
it's like
workers.
2% of federal workers that accepted it.
It's still a small number, and I think everybody would like to streamline things, and you would think that maybe a buyout's better than an outright firing. But,
right. I mean, I think it gets back to the question that we had yesterday from Ro Khanna, the congressman in California, who just said, look, I'm in favor of a lot of these things, but really they need to be brought to Congress. We have to sign off and approve on it. This is where the judiciary system is going to decide, is this the power of the executive? Is this the power of Congress to be able to do these things?
Yeah. Meantime, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking yesterday about the Doge team and the Doge teams, in particular, their access to federal payment systems and the data. In an interview with Bloomberg, he described it as a, quote, operational review, not an ideological review. He said the team's access is, quote, read-only. That's something that we've heard from President Trump before, and that there's been no, quote, tinkering with the department's payment systems. Bessent said he personally vetted the Treasury employees on Musk's team who have the access. That became relevant yesterday when one of the 2 Doge staffers authorized by a judge to access the data resigned. 26-year-old Marco Eliz stepping down from his role. This after the Wall Street Journal linked him to a now deleted, I should say, social media account that advocated racism and eugenics. That account posted in July, quote, just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. I don't know what you make of that. I will say I was happy to hear Bessent's comments about not just the read-only, but really sort of getting granular, if you saw it, into the details of, what they can actually do when they can't do. I would love to see more transparency around the process. I think it's great that they're obviously creating transparency around the spending. So on the main front, you want to know that.
Yeah.
But I think for the credibility of the whole exercise, you want to feel and know that however it's being done, it's not being siphoned off into some crazy place or that's going. I think the new worry, which I'm actually less worried about, but I think one of the worries is that a lot of this is being fed into various AI systems to analyze, and then therefore those AI systems now have access to that data. I just think it would be better if everybody knew, almost on a daily basis, frankly, what's going on, given the speed and rapidity of it all.
Bessent was pretty reassuring yesterday with some of the things he said. But by the way, adding that you can't even do that from Treasury. That resists the ability to change those things.
That the Federal Reserve is the one
level,
that does it.
Not at the Treasury.
I remember when we first had him on a couple of times. He was so frank in just the way he does sort of inspire. Yeah, he does sort of inspire. At least you know what you're getting. This person that had to resign. I saw some hoopla yesterday out of a funny chyron about.
I saw that too.
Is this a different guy?
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that guy still there?
I don't know. I didn't honestly. I didn't hear the interview. I just saw the chyron. It was on.
And the ones I saw just had the faces of the 3 people that they were just very unhappy with. But someone said, "Can you believe that someone at chyron or at CNN really had to?" To type that chyron. People don't know what we're talking about. You can look it up. I'm sure we probably can't even.
I don't even want to say it.
I know. and neither word of the 2 words.
Well, big.
I mean, you're allowed to say big. You're allowed to say balls. You just really can't say them together. I don't think. And I didn't. Did I?
There wasn't much of a pause between.
There was. I think there was enough. There was a pause that refreshes.
The crypto firm Gemini, backed by the Winklevoss twins, considering an IPO as soon as this year. That's according to Bloomberg. And they're saying that the crypto exchange is now in talks with potential advisors on a listing. The report says no final decisions have been made, but you talk about, I don't know if they're going to have the last laugh, but when you start to think about the history of the Winklevoss twins and the economics of Facebook and the movie and hanging out with Larry Summers. Remember
They've had a very tumultuous and high-flying
and successful run.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. What a journey! What
a
journey!
Were probably Bitcoin bulls when it was under $1,000. I think it was like $12.
Remember, we used to have them on the broadcast. I would say back in 2011 and 12.
I mean,
that long ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to hand it to them.
So they were super early.
You got to hand it to him. And if you are super early, I don't even want to
super rich.
Yeah, I don't even want to venture a guess. At least they're not tall, handsome, and athletic.
Oh wait.
Huh? They're only when they do the movie. I mean, it's not going to be Army Hammer.
I think Larry Ellison has even said he felt a little bad about how
Summers.
Larry Summers said he felt a little bad about that scene in the movie when they came in and he kind of bawled them out. He said he felt a little bad.
I wonder if that was but to totally shift gears and go right into crypto from there and
big win.
all in. And from the very beginning, they said people that would argue or pick your bear, your crypto bear. That's it. Don't argue with it. It's mathematics. Don't argue with me.
They had
it's
an
mathematics.
idea. What was their idea about something that was happening in space that was going to impact Bitcoin?
Oh, yeah?
They had some wild idea. I mean, if you go back, I got to go back now and look. Yeah. There was there were a couple of sort of very wild ideas about the rationale of what was going on.
what you can either do what a Winklevoss is worth or what the Winklevi are worth. You got a number? You got a number? Does it begin with a B? Definitely, right?
I just haven't followed it closely enough.
I guarantee. I think they're both
assuming they
well
held on to it. Yeah, we'll have to keep looking for it. Anyway, separately, Meta's CEO Mark Zuckerberg visited the White House yesterday. The company said that he was there to discuss the company's role in helping the Trump administration with America's international tech leadership. It's unclear whether Zuckerberg met with President Trump, who spent much of yesterday meeting with Republican lawmakers on his legislative priorities.
Cheese will be next.
I got the.
What do you have?
I got 2.7 a piece, and then it even added it up for me. 2.7 a piece, giving them a combined net worth of 5.4. 5.4. I don't know if you can trust the numbers,
but it's interesting.
It's on an AI. It's on. I looked it up on AI.
Yeah.
It must be true.
There is more Squawk Pod ahead with two members of Congress aiming to ban Chinese AI app DeepSeek on government devices. NASA and the U.S. Navy have already restricted use for employees, and these lawmakers say the rest of Washington should follow. Representative Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey.
Not only should all Americans know about what the Chinese government is doing here and using the way they're using DeepSeek, but also make sure from a national security perspective, and Darin and I are on the Intelligence Committee, making sure that no government employee is using DeepSeek on their phones, on their devices to do any kind of searching that could help the Chinese government.
And Darin LaHood of Illinois.
You're not going to find any criticism of Xi Jinping, the Communist Chinese Party, anything related to Taiwan and China. So again, it's screening the content of what goes on there. That should tell you everything.
We'll be right back. And we're back. This is Squawk Pod with Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Up and Becky, Q.
Bipartisan legislation has been introduced by Democrat Congressman Josh Gottheimer and Republican Congressman Darin LaHood to ban DeepSeek from government devices. Like TikTok, national security and espionage risks are their major concerns here. Congressman Gottheimer and Congressman LaHood join us this morning. And gentlemen, thank you for being here. This kind of follows the playbook of what we originally saw with TikTok. What are your concerns here? What are you thinking? And Congressman Gottheimer, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Becky. I think Darin and I are concerned with what most Americans should be concerned about with DeepSeek and the Chinese government literally putting into their code an ability to capture data on Americans, on their searches, on their private, on either private documents that they're using DeepSeek for. It's now the #1 downloaded app on Apple. So we think not only should all Americans know about what the Chinese government is doing here and using the way they're using DeepSeek, but also make sure from a national security perspective, and Darin and I are on the Intelligence Committee, making sure that no government employee is using DeepSeek on their phones, on their devices to do any kind of searching that could help the Chinese government.
Congressman LaHood, we should make the distinction between using the model itself and downloading the app. Using the model itself, you can change things, you can put protections and build security into it. I think there have been questions that have been raised about whether some of that information on the app is going back to China Telecom and some other issues along this way. Do you know anything, or you just feel like this is a situation where there's the potential for security to be compromised?
Well, we come from the national security aspect, both serving on the Intelligence Committee. I also serve on our Select Committee on China. If you start with the predicate that China has a plan to replace the United States, they're working at it every single day. They want to beat us technologically, militarily, economically, diplomatically. And you've seen pattern after pattern of CCP-related companies that steal data, steal information, steal our intellectual property, abide by a different set of rules and standards than every other industrialized country in the world. This is another example of that. DeepSeek has been banned in lots of other countries already, Australia, South Korea, Italy. It's long overdue that we really question what they're doing and we protect American citizens.
How do you feel about where things stand with TikTok right now? I mean, that was a process that started a while ago. How do you feel with TikTok versus DeepSeek and the process to try and ban it where it stands right now? I guess we're in the 75-day waiting period to see if there's a deal that can be had.
Well, if you look at the overwhelming bipartisan support to ban TikTok, I think that speaks for itself. But also look at the national security team that President Trump has put together, from John Radcliffe to Elise Stefanik to J.D. Vance to Marco Rubio. You know, Rubio, Vance, Stefanik all supported the TikTok ban. So did Mike Waltz. This morning, President Trump, it's been reported he's putting J.D. Vance in charge of that and Mike Waltz. I think we'll get to a resolution on this, and it won't be good for TikTok.
Congressman LaHood, I'll ask both of you. We had Ro Khanna on the broadcast. Well, we had him just a couple of days ago, but a couple of weeks ago, he effectively said that, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the conversation you're having right now about TikTok is a lie.
None of the social media apps, of course, have had clean hands. I mean, there has been allegations of foreign interference on other apps. There's certainly been allegations of data breaches. Data brokers are selling American data to the Chinese. So if we want to have a strong data privacy law, let's do that. If we want to have a strong law making it illegal for any interference by an adversary on algorithms, let's do that. But to just ban the app is what went too far, and I don't think the evidence justified that, certainly in the public record.
That's what he basically said. He basically said that he's seen the intelligence and that it is a lie, that there's to the extent that TikTok is actually taking that information, giving it to the Chinese government, or the Chinese government is using TikTok in some kind of nefarious way today. That's not to say that prospectively in the future it couldn't, and that's clearly a possibility. And if we want to say that that's a threat, that will always be a threat. But that the idea that the American public has been told repeatedly that TikTok is doing something nefarious in this moment is not true. What do you say to that?
Listen, I didn't see Ro's comments, but I'll tell you, and both serving on the Intelligence Committee, and the fact that you saw an overwhelming number of congressmen and women come out immediately and ban it,
because
right?
He basically said it was part of
he
said it was an election campaign. He said it was a campaign, meaning there's a lot of people that have just gone along with this, arguably because I don't know what to say, xenophobia. There's just been a lot of different sort of arguments that have been made about this issue, but almost no detail has been suggested publicly about nefarious behavior today. And I'm not here to defend TikTok. I'm just saying, show us the receipts.
I was going to say, Andrew. I was going to say that overwhelmingly after getting intelligence briefings, and obviously we can't discuss all of what we've seen on the Intelligence Committee, but I'll tell you this, there's a reason why it was so overwhelming, and you know it's not easy to get a huge immediate bipartisan vote on something, and I believe that's why, based on the information we've seen, that people acted so quickly. Listen, and as Darin pointed out, which I think is spot on, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has one intention. They're our number one adversary, and their intention is to spew disinformation and to ensure that our democracy's best days are behind us, not ahead of us. Obviously, we believe we've got to do everything we can to protect our country, and especially to ensure that the Chinese Communist Party is not using disinformation or collecting data on Americans to try to undermine our country. Both in the case of DeepSeek is where we see concerns. I think we both saw that in the case of TikTok, and I think it's overwhelming and clear.
I would just make one point. The same argument that Ro is making and that you alluded to is the same thing they said about Huawei a number of years ago. We found out that was false and not true. Huawei blatantly is involved with the CCP, stealing our intellectual property, stealing our privacy rights. That's why you've seen almost a complete ban of Huawei. It's the same argument. There's no evidence to trust CCP-related entities, whether it's TikTok, whether it's DeepSeek, whether it's Huawei.
I'll ask, is anyone on your staff using DeepSeek? Have they checked it out? And by the way, gentlemen, do either of you allow your kids to use TikTok?
I have three teenage boys. I do not allow them to use TikTok.
And there's certainly no one in my office using DeepSeek, I'll tell you that much.
What's the plan? Do you think that you have a lot of support, bipartisan support in Congress for this?
Absolutely. We just introduced this legislation. We already have 20 original co-sponsors. I think similar to what you saw with TikTok bill, there's going to be a lot of people interested in this. Our select committee on China is going to hold a hearing on this also, and I think we're going to continue to build support for it.
And the more information that comes out on this, I think you're going to see more members of Congress jump on, right? Just like they did with TikTok.
One other point I want to say, it's interesting on DeepSeek. I want to mention one thing on DeepSeek. You're not going to find any criticism of Xi Jinping, the Communist Chinese Party, anything related to Taiwan and China. So again, it's screening the content that goes on there. That should tell you everything.
And gentlemen, very quickly on TikTok, I know you think that this will be resolved quickly. How do you think it ends? With a purchase of an American company or the U.S. government taking ownership of some part of the stake? Or do you think that this is something where it's no longer allowed to operate in the United States?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the president has put J.D. Vance in charge of this with Mike Waltz. Obviously, J.D. Vance comes from that world with a prior tech background. I think, we'll see what they come up with over the next month or so here. But I think it'll be resolved.
And I think it has to be resolved, right? This is nothing this can't hang out there as we've talked about. We know what their intentions are.
Congressman Gottheimer, Congressman LaHood, thank you both for joining us this morning.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, Everett Kelley represents the largest union of federal workers, and he says these buyout offers and potential job cuts, spurred by the efficiency-minded work of world's richest man Elon Musk,
Who would run a company this way?
is not the right way to trim the fat from the budget. It could have real consequences.
Think about it. If you start cutting the food service workers, right, the inspectors, that's going to affect the bottom line, at the retail and grocery market.
Welcome back to Squawk Pod.
You're watching Squawk Box on this Friday morning right here on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernan and Becky Quick.
A federal judge has paused the Trump administration's buyout offer to federal employees. A court hearing is set for Monday to hear arguments from both the White House and unions. Joining us now is Everett Kelley, president of the American Federation of Government Employees, the largest federal union. Everett, it's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, and thank you. Good morning.
Is there a way to, I know that you're not a big fan of the whole process here. We're all kind of grappling with, on the one hand, what we feel maybe is some bloat in the federal government that we'd like to somehow deal with. And then I think, at least as far as intentions go, a buyout seems to be preferable to just outright layoffs. Just summarize the thinking of your thinking and of the union because it's been tried before. This law was passed during the Clinton administration. For buyouts. So it has been something that different administrations have thought about trying to do to streamline things.
And again, thank you for having me. But from where we sit, our position is not that it shouldn't be done or that it couldn't be done. Our position is that it should be done correctly, appropriately. Okay, because there are rules and regulations that governs these type of actions. We're just saying follow those rules and regulations.
It gets a little weird because the maximum is $25,000. The average federal worker is making about $8,800 a month. So you can't get to September. You would use up that $25,000. So they're going to call it administrative leave, and no one knows where the money's coming from. What would be the proper way to do it in your view? And some people think it's a pretty good deal. I guess 50,000 have accepted it. Everett, are they being hoodwinked or fooled?
I truly believe that myself. And those I've spoken to several of those individuals that have taken this option. And what they said is, we're just tired of the rat race. I was going to be retiring anyway in the next few months, so I'm going to go ahead and take this offer here. Now, I certainly believe that they're being hoodwinked. I think they're being fooled, because just like you said, there is no guarantee that they'll ever receive any pay for this offer. They say it's a fork in the road. I say it's a knife in their back because, there's just no continuity to what's going on.
One.
Okay?
Yeah, that's a good one. Not a fork in the road. I'm going to use that. What would, is there any way that everyone could be, concerns on both sides could be somehow satisfied and could it be worked out in court are you optimistic about what happens on Monday when both sides get to air their sides of the argument?
I'm very optimistic about what will happen on Monday. First of all, I think that the judge has made a correct ruling so far. he decided that he's going to look at the case and not just say, because this is the administration making these moves, that is correct, because we believe that it is not correct. I am hopeful that we can sit down and work through this. And I say again, if you really want to know, how to deal with these issues, talk to the people that's actually doing it. Just be honest. Who would run a company this way, right? Just think about it. If you start cutting the food service workers, right, the inspectors, that's going to affect the bottom line, at the retail and grocery market. If you start cutting TSA workers, that's going to affect the airline industries and these type of things. And when you look at VA, it's going to affect the healthcare industry. So who would run a company that way? No one would, right? You would want someone that's experienced, right, that know exactly what they're doing. The individual that's making these suggestions have never worked in the government, don't know anything about what federal workers do, and I suggest, once again, that they sit down and talk to the federal workers in their union and work through these issues, and I think we can get to where we need to get to.
Is there any notion or idea, Everett, that layoffs are coming one way or another, and that this would certainly soften the blow if I could, if I knew I was going to get paid till September of 2025, and the whole agency could be shut down? There are some, there are some reasons. Yeah, there's some reasons why people have gone along with the idea. 50 or 60,000 of them. 50 or 60,000 is a drop in the bucket as to what was believed, who would take that offer. But these are people that was ready to retire anyway. And the point is, there is no guarantee that these individuals will ever get paid, because it is the Congress that, authorized payments. And so far, we are under a continuing resolution that's only guaranteed to March 14th. Now, Congress had to come back together and decide the appropriate spending for these agencies for the rest of the year. So there's no guarantee. Even when you look at the memorandum, it points to that.
So do the people continue to show up at the office, or how much of this is people who didn't want to go back to the office too?
I don't think that, it's people that didn't want to go back to the office. I really don't. People want to do their job. What they want to do, though, is honor the negotiation that has taken place between these various agencies and the workers. And that's all that FGE is saying. Honor the negotiated agreements, right? That's all we're saying.
All right, Everett, we'd like some clarity too, and I maybe we'll get that on Monday, but we appreciate hearing your side of things this morning. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's been a wild week. It's been a lot of fun, and Joe, we're very glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
Yes.
I am glad to be back, but I'm thinking 5 days next week.
It's gonna be a long week.
I got to bone up because I'm not totally back.
Join us for that. Hope you feel better over the week.
And that is the pod for today and for the week. Thank you for tuning in to Squawk Pod. We bring you the highlights of our 3-hour live TV show. But you can always catch the rest of the fun with Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin if you tune into Squawk Box weekday mornings on CNBC starting at 6 Eastern. Don't forget to give us a follow, Squawk Pod, this podcast, wherever you're listening now. And don't miss a thing. We'll meet you right back here on Monday. Have a great weekend.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.